Benavidez Morrell, who wins?
It's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be a good fight. 50-50 fight.
And I think that it's going to be a war. In my eyes, I see it as a 50-50 fight.
These fighters, I think David Morrell may have needed, one or two more real tests before he really, build the resolve to be able to handle a guy with the ability, the power.
Boxing experts have shared their predictions for the David Benavidez versus David Morrell fight. Sean Porter believes Benavidez will beat Morrell in their 12-round main event this Saturday, February 1st, at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Porter, like many Benavidez supporters, thinks Benavidez has the advantage because he has more experience as a pro, while Morrell has only fought 11 times. He sees Benavidez as the stronger, more seasoned fighter. The opponents Benavidez has faced in his career don't make him stand out much. At 36, Andrade is past his prime, and Canelo had already beaten Plant before Benavidez did. So, those wins don't really boost his credibility in this fight. In fact, they add to the doubts about him. Benavidez didn't look great in his June fight against Alexander Gvozdyk. He struggled against a stronger opponent, got tired, and didn't show much power. Sean Porter thinks this fight is very close, giving Benavidez only a slight edge at 55-45. He's excited about the matchup, calling it a David versus David fight and saying he loves everything about it. Porter also pointed out that Benavidez has more experience than Morrell, which gives him an advantage. Porter noted that while both fighters are big, he believes Benavidez is naturally better suited for the 175-pound division. He stressed that Benavidez's experience in handling tough opponents over a full 12-round fight would be a key factor, something Morrell hasn't faced yet as a pro. Porter also pointed out that Morrell's last fight against Ados Yerbasinali was a different kind of challenge and didn't test him with the same level of resistance that a tough, competitive 12-round fight would bring.
Who's that one?
That's 50-50 right there. If anything, 55-45 for Benavidez.
Yeah.
I love David versus David. I love everything about the fight. The thing I feel that Benavidez has over Morrell is experience, is true strength. Both of those guys are big guys, but I think Benavidez is more of the natural 175-pounder.
Yeah, you're like, Morrell's such a high-level technical fighter, but Jose mentioned what you just mentioned, like they feel like the experience is gonna eventually show through. Like, I don't know, take me into that, like how experience can trump like talent and technicality like that.
You know what? The thing that I know for this fight, when you are in a competitive fight that's gonna go 12 rounds, of course you're prepared for the 12.
Porter noted that Morrell has never faced an opponent who applies relentless pressure or has the size of a cruiserweight like Benavidez. While Morrell easily defeated Ados Yerbasinali in his 175-pound debut on August 3rd last year, he wasn't forced to fight on the back foot. Benavidez, however, is expected to pressure him in a way he hasn't experienced before. Porter pointed out that while Morrell's last opponent, Ados Yerbasinali, had more one-punch power than Benavidez, he didn't apply constant pressure like Benavidez plans to. If Benavidez recklessly rushes in, he could walk into Morrell's sharp counters or get hurt by a well-placed body shot. Benavidez's debut at 175 pounds was even more disappointing than Morrell's. In his fight against Alexander Gvozdyk on June 15th, he ran out of energy after 8 rounds and was in serious trouble in the 12th. In the final 30 seconds, Gvozdyk landed a series of punishing combinations while Benavidez, exhausted, could barely move. Porter believes Benavidez can match Morrell in power and speed while also being an effective boxer. He added that this level of pressure and resistance would be a real test for Morrell. Porter mentioned that Benavidez's ability to handle mental and physical challenges during a fight creates a kind of roller coaster ride. While Benavidez has faced that pressure before, Morrell hasn't. We don't know if Benavidez can stand toe-to-toe with Morrell without getting knocked down. Sure, Benavidez traded shots with smaller, aging 168-pound fighters early in his career, but that approach didn't work at 175 pounds when he fought Gvozdyk. He got rocked and then blamed his injured hands, an excuse that seemed more like damage control than the truth. Benavidez could get knocked out early. Morrell has the ability to break him down, especially his head, which is tough like granite. However, Benavidez absorbs headshots much better than body shots. This vulnerability makes sense because his love for food leads to significant weight gain between fights. Benavidez's midsection, like many fighters with a long torso and fluctuating physique, remains a clear weak spot. When asked if he could see Benavidez defeating Morrell in 6 rounds, similar to his win over the smaller, older Demetrius Andrade on November 25, 2023, Porter said he favored Benavidez but wasn't sure. He speculated it could take 8 or 9 rounds for something like that to happen, given that Morrell is bigger, taller, and younger than Andrade. Porter clarified that although Morrell is the same height as Andrade, he's much stronger and has more physical advantages. He described the fight as one with resistance on both ends, noting it would be a beautiful matchup. But Benavidez will have a tough time securing a knockout without exposing himself to serious risk. Benavidez can't afford to approach this fight the same way he did against the smaller, aging opponents he dominated at super middleweight. His resume at 168 pounds is thin, not much better than Edgar Berlanga's. He risks being stopped by Morrell or systematically outboxed. Meanwhile, Canelo Alvarez admits he's torn about who will win the light heavyweight showdown between David Benavidez and David Morrell, 2 fighters he's previously been associated with. As they compete for the WBA regular and WBC interim belts, Canelo will be watching closely. While the bookmakers favor Benavidez to beat the undefeated Cuban, Canelo believes it will be an evenly matched fight. He predicted it to be a 50-50 battle, especially after failing to secure a fight with Canelo, who holds 3 of the major titles. David Benavidez, a 4-time world champion at 168 pounds, moved up to light heavyweight in June, where he triumphed over former world champion Alexander Gvozdyk in his debut. Meanwhile, Morrell also stepped up to 175 pounds, marking his entry into the division with a points win over Eidos Urbasinali in August. However, 2020 Olympic gold medalist Andy Cruz predicts a knockout win for Morrell. Cruz compares Morrell to himself, noting that both share a relaxed and playful approach to the sport, while Benavidez seems visibly tense, a mix of anger and anxiety as he prepares for the showdown. Watching Benavidez, it's clear he's carrying the weight of uncertainty, fully aware that this fight could be his downfall, potentially making all the hard work of his career meaningless as he faces the reality that his time at the top might be coming to an end. The idea of his career coming to an end seems to haunt Benavidez, pushing him to adopt an intimidating demeanor in an attempt to shake Morrell's confidence. Benavidez never actively sought this fight, having avoided Morrell's persistent callouts since 2022, and for good reason. For the past 5 years, he's been fighting older, smaller opponents who were past their prime, raking in money with easy wins. A showdown with Morrell threatens to derail that lucrative streak, forcing him into a challenge he's long avoided. Andy Cruz, analyzing the fight between Benavidez and Morrell, compared Morrell to himself, saying, "What I can say about Morrell is he's a typical Cuban fighter. He's always smiling, always dancing. I see him very similar to me, always joking and dancing. Perhaps he's even worse than me." Cruz also spoke about Morrell's focus for the fight, suggesting that he's fully locked in. Cruz believes Morrell is really focused and that it will be a tough fight, but he predicts Morrell will put on a great performance and win by knockout. Fans are rallying behind Benavidez, viewing him as a top-tier fighter, and they won't take kindly to Morrell exposing him as a fraud. No one likes seeing their idols revealed as mere hype, leaving fans feeling duped and disillusioned. If Benavidez loses, those fans will quickly abandon him, leaving him adrift as his career sinks. His defeat will be a tough pill to swallow for fans who have long hailed him as the best in the 168-pound division, convinced he could dethrone Canelo Alvarez. However, they've rarely scrutinized his fighting style or the level of competition he's faced throughout his 12-year career. This blind loyalty raises serious questions. Benavidez's most recent fight against Alexander Gvozdyk has shown that he was never the fighter many naive fans believed him to be. His thin resume, combined with his underwhelming performance, reveals that he is just another carefully crafted fighter, built up by wins against aging, undersized opponents while competing outside his true weight class. Light heavyweight contender Eidos Urbasinali believes Morrell's path to victory lies in staying calm through the crucial first 6 to 8 rounds. On the other hand, super middleweight contender Diego Pacheco thinks Benavidez will defeat Morrell. In a conversation with Shahzid, Pacheco gave a sneak peek into the highly anticipated light heavyweight showdown, reflecting on his recent sparring sessions with Benavidez, though noting Benavidez's habit of repeatedly sentence cuts off. Calling both fighters David might leave viewers second-guessing which one is being referred to. Maybe one of them should adopt the nickname Goliath just for this particular bout. Pacheco told Zid that Benavidez had been looking very impressive, having spent the past few weeks training alongside him. He praised Benavidez for being in great shape and for the amazing things he had been doing in the ring. Calling him a monster, Pacheco expressed confidence that Benavidez would handle business on February 1st, even suggesting that he might secure a stoppage victory against David Morrell.
And man, how do you think Benavidez does? Your gym mate a week after you fight. How do you think that fight goes with Morrell, man?
I think David, he's looking very good. I've been in the gym with him for the past few weeks, and he's been looking great shape, doing some amazing things in the ring. Like always, David's the monster. So I think he'll take care of business February 1st. I think he might even get the stoppage against David Morrell.
Benavidez has earned his monster nickname due to his relentless and multifaceted attack. However, Pacheco, who sparred with him just 3 months ago, highlighted the strength of Benavidez's defense. When asked about Benavidez's underrated abilities, Pacheco's eyes lit up as he emphasized his defensive skills. He pointed out that while Benavidez often stands upright, his defensive techniques are exceptional. Pacheco explained that Benavidez is very skilled at pulling back and then quickly countering with punches, making his defense surprisingly effective. He also acknowledged that David Morrell is a fighter who shouldn't be taken lightly, saying, Sentence cuts off. Pacheco praised Morrell, calling him a great fighter and one of the best Cubans out right now.
David Morrell is a guy that you can't take lightly. He's a great fighter. He's up there for a reason. One of the best Cubans out right now. So it's gonna be a great fight. But I just feel like David is one of those guys too who's a monster and just doesn't let anyone take it from him. And when he's in there, he's going in there for the kill. And of course, I feel like Morrell is maybe gonna be his toughest opponent yet.
Pacheco also added that Morrell might be Benavidez's toughest opponent yet. He highlighted how Benavidez is constantly looking to improve, sharing that Benavidez films everything and pays close attention to every detail. Pacheco explained that Benavidez carefully studies footage, focusing on small aspects like footwork and shoulder movements, and makes adjustments accordingly. He appreciated that Benavidez shared this knowledge with him, constantly offering tips and suggestions that Pacheco believes will help his own training to prevail.
I think he has a really good jab. He's a good fighter. He keeps his distance really well, so that I feel like he's gonna make it hard for David in the early rounds. But like we saw with Caleb Plant, Caleb Plant was doing a great job boxing the first few rounds when he fought David, but then David just has that chip in his shoulder where he's just coming forward. Even on the clinch hits, he's still punching. He's still getting punches in, and I feel like when you're boxing a guy like David and he just keeps coming forward no matter what you do, it just makes it hard mentally for you to keep that same game plan and stick to it, because we have a monster like him throwing big punches coming in.
Gabriel Rosado believes David Morrell's relentless taunts have sparked a fierce side of WBC interim light heavyweight champion David Benavidez, igniting a fire in him ahead of their showdown this Saturday. Rosado thinks that in their 12-round main event, Benavidez will be targeting Morrell, trying to overwhelm him with punches to secure a knockout. Benavidez isn't used to being seen as outdated or a one-dimensional fighter by his opponents, but the more technically refined Cuban, Morrell, is surprised by how simple Benavidez's style seems. For years, Benavidez has relied on his size and relentless volume, dominating at 168 pounds. But now he's facing his first true challenge in the form of the formidable David Morrell. Benavidez, a 12-year pro, is about to face his toughest test yet. Gabe Rosado believes that David Benavidez is facing his first true test late in his career and could lose on Saturday night. While he favors Benavidez, having known him for years, he warns not to sleep on Morrell. This is a fight that Benavidez didn't even have to take. Morrell is the one who needs it, Rosado told Fight Hub TV. He argued that WBA regular light heavyweight champion David Morrell needs this fight against interim WBC 175-pound champion Benavidez, stating that Morrell hit the jackpot with this opportunity. If he wins, he'll be in a great position as no one was really calling him out before. Rosado pointed out what a tough competitor Benavidez is, noting that he was willing to take on Morrell when no one else would, saying, "Come on, let's go, let's run it." However, Rosado failed to mention that Benavidez showed no interest in fighting Morrell for 2 years after being first called out in 2022. He believes Morrell has woken up a different kind of beast in Benavidez, as no one else has pushed him like this. Gabe Rosado commented on Morrell's trash talk, questioning Benavidez's courage and repeatedly saying he can't punch. He pointed out that WBA regular 175-pound champion Morrell hasn't struck gold by landing this fight, as he enters as the belt holder, not Benavidez. If Morrell were a contender without a title, it would be easy to claim he hit the jackpot. But that's not the case here. Rosado emphasized that Benavidez is the one with something to gain in this fight. It's going to be a fire fight. They're both going to clash, and it's going to be a matter of who can take it, because they're both going to land shots. I think Morrell is the bigger puncher of the two, but Benavidez gets you out with volume, so what's going to win? Rosado said. However, he acknowledged that the fight may not unfold as the all-out brawl he anticipates, especially with Morrell being a product of the Cuban boxing tradition, which often means a more tactical, calculated approach. Rosado pointed out that Benavidez's previous opponents were often stationary, making it easier for him to dominate with his overwhelming volume. However, he noted that Cuban fighters, like Morrell, bring sharp tactical awareness to the ring and don't make the mistake of standing directly in front of a fighter known for his relentless attack, like Benavidez. Is it going to be power, or is it going to be volume? That's what it's going to come down to, Rosado said. He added, I don't think Morrell is going to be able to match Benavidez's volume. He's constantly punching on top of you, and he doesn't get tired. Rosado also reflected on Benavidez's fight with Alexander Gvozdyk in June, where signs of fatigue were evident by the 8th round. Moving up to 175 pounds seemed to take its toll, and the punches he absorbed at light heavyweight were significantly more powerful than what he faced at 168. Rosado emphasized that only immobile fighters can be hit by Benavidez's overwhelming volume of punches. He pointed out that fighters who can move and potshot effectively neutralize volume-dependent fighters like Benavidez. He compared Benavidez's situation to William Zepeda's struggles against Tevin Farmer, stating that Benavidez will likely face similar challenges against Morrell, as he will have a tough time landing clean punches. He'll be compelled to play a patient, tactical game, firing off one shot at a time, which is as far from Benavidez's strength, said Rosado. He also noted that Morrell will likely stick to his boxing, using movement to land powerful blows on Benavidez. Benavidez, with his relentless, RoboCop-like approach, will walk right into many of those punches, which will only amplify Morrell's already devastating power. Two-time world champion Antonio Tarver is among those who share this view. There's an opinion that David Morrell might need to secure a knockout to defeat WBC interim light heavyweight title holder David Benavidez. Morrell could be at risk of losing early if Benavidez bum rushes him, as he does with every opponent. However, Morrell brings a level of power and technical skill that forces Benavidez to abandon the raw brute force tactics he relied on during his dominance over overmatched opponents at 168 pounds. Benavidez's career has been shaped by favorable matchups and the fact that he's been fighting below his natural cruiserweight frame. Antonio Tarver believes that Benavidez has a significant edge in both size and professional experience, making it a tough challenge for Morrell, the former Cuban amateur standout, to prevail without securing a knockout. With Benavidez's relentless pace, Morrell would face an uphill battle. Benavidez could face an uphill battle in earning a decision, especially if he's being outstruck by a significant margin throughout the bout. His tendency to throw an abundance of punches might spell trouble in this matchup, as it often leaves his chin exposed and vulnerable to significant strikes. Relying on relentless output to overwhelm opponents has worked well for him, especially since he spent the past 11 years fighting primarily against smaller fighters at 168 pounds. However, Morrell brings a heavier punch than any opponent Benavidez has faced so far, making him a legitimate knockout threat in this fight. Benavidez, used to battling older and smaller opponents, will find himself in unfamiliar territory with Morrell, who will seize every opportunity to land damaging shots. The only fighter Benavidez has fought of a similar size is Alexander Gvozdyk. Antonio Tarver, on his YouTube channel, expressed the belief that David Morrell might need 1 or 2 more tests to be fully prepared for the skill, power, and confidence that David Benavidez brings to the ring. He emphasized that Morrell would need to land a shot that not only drops Benavidez, but also causes significant damage, suggesting that a knockout might be necessary for Morrell to secure a victory. Tarver pointed out that while some fighters can be made to quit, neither Benavidez nor Morrell could be easily intimidated. He stated that this fight would likely require one of the fighters to end it inside the distance to claim victory. Tarver also mentioned that while Benavidez has a slight height advantage, Morrell actually holds a 4-inch reach advantage.
And it's going to be I think Morrell's going to have to find that shot that really, not only drops, but, concuss. He got to knock David Benavidez out. And there's fighters you can make quit. I don't think neither one of these fighters you can make quit. Sometimes you got to knock them out. And I think this is one of those type of fights where, in order to secure victory, in order to secure victory, one of these guys is going to have to end it with inside the distance, and I think when you look at, what they bring to the table, David Benavidez is going to have a little reach and size advantage.
It seems Tarver has fallen for the hype, echoing the same points that other Benavidez supporters often make. However, if you block out the noise from his fan base and focus on two key things, A, Benavidez's imposing size, and B, the aging, smaller opponents he's been dominating, you'll quickly realize that he's nothing more than a classic weight bully. Tarver did acknowledge that he believes Morrell would be one of the more gifted fighters Benavidez has faced, recognizing Morrell's considerable talent and highlighting the experience he brings to the ring. Benavidez had gained experience from facing top-tier fighters like Caleb Plant and others. Tarver also referred to the tough challenge Benavidez faced against light heavyweight Alexander Gvozdyk, emphasizing the level of competition Benavidez has encountered in his career. However, Benavidez doesn't deserve all the hype for his win over Caleb Plant, especially considering how much more impressive Canelo Alvarez's performance was. While Plant held his own in the first 5 rounds against Benavidez, showcasing his skills, Canelo completely overwhelmed him and secured a knockout. You might try to build up Benavidez. If Plant had power or hadn't been stopped by Canelo before facing Benavidez, it might be a different story. The truth is, Benavidez didn't outperform Canelo against Plant and was on the losing end of nearly every round in the first 6. Plant exposed him. If you're using that performance as evidence that Benavidez would beat Morrell, you're not seeing the full picture.
This will be, I think, one of the, more gifted fighters that Benavidez has faced. I think David Morrell comes in with a lot of talent. And you got, a guy that has a talent like both of these guys, and they rise to the occasion. It's the moment that really gets these guys up. And I think this is the type of fight that you can say it's going to bring the best out of both of these guys, man.
If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you're always updated with our latest content. See you in the next one.